Hey everyone, welcome back to today's episode of our podcast. We're super excited to have two amazingly talented developers with us today. We're going to be talking about all things shopware and extending shopware, and honestly leveraging the experience these guys have in extending shopware and all the things that you can do. So I'm super excited to have both Christian and Vlad here with us today. This podcast is really about their experience and what they know and what they're doing. And so we're excited to kind of have them. Why don't I pause and give them a chance to kind of introduce themselves? Vlad, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us about you and who you're with and what you're doing.
Yeah, hello there. So I'm Vlad. I'm software developer, tech lead at IT Delight.
Okay. So hi from my side. Great to be here. My name is Christian and I'm from the German Shopware agency Dasistweb. And I'm there working as the head of technology. So I'm the one who needs to make sure everyone can work with all these kinds of technologies that we're using. And I'm also head of QA. So that's why probably you hear me a lot talking about testing, improving quality and stuff like that. And personally, I'm doing a lot or try to do a lot in the community. So we're the guys building Dockware, translation framework, testing frameworks, and I'm developing all the time basically, and just try to do stuff that people hopefully like. And great to be here.
Awesome. Thank you both for just taking the time. I think, shopware is so exciting, right? I know between the two of you, hundreds of projects, all sorts of experience. And I'm excited to just learn from you today, just, some of the things that you've done and how you're extending the platform and whatnot. Clearly shopware has been around, a while. Obviously it's got a pretty good hold over kind of in the European markets. And we're just almost at the beginning pieces of what we're doing here in the United States, which is kind of fun. So I love that we're representing all parts of the world and all elements of shopware as we go through and just kind of learn more. But let's start real quick with shopware. It's got a pretty incredible out of the box feature set, but maybe just real quickly, let's highlight some of your favorite out of the box features, both as a developer and as someone developing for a merchant. Christian, why don't we start with you? What some of your favorite maybe out of the box features before we talk about extending them?
Yeah, out of the box, I would say rule builder, because that one, I mean, it can get complicated, but once you know how to handle it, it's just so cool to build all these kinds of different conditional stuff without having to code anything. And the second one I would go with is the latest flow builder, because that's also, I mean, me as a developer saying that, but doing that stuff without having to code it, it's fun. And I think it's not only about agencies and developers, but also primarily about, the merchants using it. So I think that's one of those great key features that I see Shopware has. So that would be my two for now.
Vlad, do you want to add from your side anything additional?
Yep. Maybe it is Shopware frontends, which is like the robust system which jumps into the game. Yeah, and of course it is pretty convenient when you are a good developer at Next, Vue.js, and so on. So you can create everything you want, even with not a big knowledge in Shopware itself. So
That's awesome.
That is out of the box, and that is pretty cool. I mean,
I
I totally agree with Christian about Flow Builder, because sometimes it can be helpful.
Yeah, and I with you, I totally forgot about mentioning the headless approach, because that's exactly, because nowadays it's not only about having shops, but shop systems or ecosystems where Shopper is part of it, and having the headless options is just remarkable.
Amazing. I appreciate that. I think I love hearing about your experience and what you guys are working on, and I appreciate you even coming back, Christian, and pointing out the headless, because I mean these commerce components are everywhere after all, right? So talk to me a little bit about on the extension side. Maybe I'm, for me on the business side, I'm thinking marketplace and wherever else. You guys are probably thinking way deeper than me, but there's some business problems, right? There's some things probably that Shopware isn't doing out of the box or whatever. There's always a million different scenarios, but what are some of the business problems that you guys see the extensions that are available today solving?
Mhm. So
Whoever.
for me, we as an agency are happy that we did all kinds of ways how to extend Shopware. So I did work for the Molly plugins since quite a while. So that's the merchant Shopware store based one. So you can just go out there and search for any cool plugin that is available either as a subscription one or maybe for free, and just install it without any knowledge on how to do things, how to do composer installations if you're a techie guy. So you just go to the built-in store, just like the mobile phone one, and install it. And that market, I know a couple of friends of mine are selling their plugins, and it's just a great way to really help all these growing numbers of merchants out there with almost out of the box extension features. So that's one cool thing. Speaking of scalability and extending the system. So maybe Vlad, what do you
Yeah.
prefer maybe as an agency?
Maybe I should mention disadvantages of plugins, apps which are published on the Shopware store. Yeah, from
Mhm.
time to time it happens that Shopware core team is not able, because of lack of the time, to properly check the extension, and from time to time it happens that the extension which is published on the Shopware store, yeah, is not developed in a good way and cannot be extended by the agency. So, for example,
Mhm.
when I install the extension from the Shopware store, I am expecting that it works so cool, yeah, in a cool way.
Mhm.
But sometimes it happens that you are not able even to extend it because someone forgot to add the event, for
Mhm.
example, or forgot to mention how we can extend. Yeah, of course we can use simple dummy ways like decorations and so on, but from this perspective, yeah, the disadvantage of these extensions is to make sure, yeah, I mean, how to convert disadvantage into an advantage, yeah, is
Yeah.
to set the strict control.
Mhm. Good that you're saying this, because we as an agency, we also have to face every day with the decision on whether to go with a plugin from the store or build it on our own, because we're mostly working in the medium enterprise segment. And the problem is, if you whatever plugin, it might just be a cheap one, in the end you're a customer of that plugin, and you just purchase it for that low amount, even though you might make millions a year or more. So I just have to completely agree with you. I like the whole store part, but it also really depends on the quality of these plugins. And that's, as mentioned, I'm trying to improve quality standards and testing stuff a lot, also community based. Because not every plugin is really working. And even if you pay a lot of time or invest a lot of time and effort in doing high quality plugins, it could just be that there's that one single shopware version that is a bit different, which is okay, but it happens and you just can't test everything. I mean, have you ever had that situation where you had that plugin that didn't really work and you tried to do it on your own then?
Yep, of course. But as an agency, it
Yeah.
is pretty hard to, um, you know, to communicate with customer and tell him, okay, you see, this plugin is not so good. Because
Yeah.
this way you are telling that, okay, software is not so good, and you should play a little bit with your words and what you want to say. So,
Mhm.
of course, a lot of situations. But according to what I see right now, software core team is improving a lot.
Yeah.
Improving a lot. Comparing to Shopware 6 release version, 6.0, it is much better, because when the first version was released, it was possible even to upload, for example, you are from agency and I'm from agency, yeah, and we have developed, just imagine that we have developed the same plugin with totally the same logic, and it was possible to publish on the store totally the same extension.
But have you ever heard or had the problem with Shopware updates and compatibility issues, because the Shopware apps should be bad in that case, because the whole API, the webhooks, they should be non-breaking, speaking of breaking changes, and also helps for clouds. What is your experience with that? Or have you had the problem? Because we as an agency, sometimes there are Shopware updates that's just break custom stuff, which is like this, and one could give us the fault because we might did touch something that might not be touched, but that just happens, and everyone's just a human being, makes errors. Sometimes it's just circumstances, but it happened, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I have decided some time ago that plugins should be placed in vendor folder and should be installed via Composer. So as soon as we've got an update, we just deactivate all plugins, and then we make an update. So it won't affect anyhow, yeah. And after that, one by one, or batches of plugins can be updated and activated. Yeah. Sometimes it is really annoying because first of all, you just want to update, and like, okay, I want to update my system, and I'm sure that all plugins are compatible with this version. But sometimes it happens that you are trying to update to the latest version, and of course, not all plugins are compatible with the latest version, and you are not able to normally update the system.
Yeah, that brings us back to the basic idea, speaking of an agency doing enterprise shops, whether to go with a plugin or not really depends on, especially payments. I would never do payments myself. I mean, I did payments myself, but for a payment provider. But as a company, I would never do it because it's just a lot and risky, that stuff.
Especially in such an important part of the process, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. When I started to go into payment development or plugin development, it was a bit, scary. Can I say scary? As soon as you learn about the numbers that run through that plugin, that gives a different feeling when doing a release. But you get used to it, and improve testing. You have to.
That's why you love testing so much at this point, right?
Yeah, I'm forced to love it. That's the only chance I have. But speaking on the of the kind of third way of integration, the app system. So as you as a non-techie, if I would tell you, you're coming from the Magento world, or
I am.
You are. So Shopware also has the cloud option. So if you are hosting your shop inside the cloud, you just can't install a plain plugin, because with all the PHP being involved, the server-side scripts, if we're both on the same instance, I could mess up your shop. So that's a risky part. So it has to be sandboxed, because different merchants are sharing the same instance. So that's the reason why it works a bit different. Problem now is you have a kind of different plugin system. Back then only done by Shopware themselves. But you as a plugin vendor, you also want to add plugins to SaaS or cloud customers. On the other hand, if it works in a different way, there are on-premise installations with the all plugin system. And with the new app system, what Shopware made is to have one system that works both for cloud customers as well as on-premise customers. And the idea is to have some kind of sandbox development. So that means all your code is on your own server system. So the whole PHP part isn't existing anymore in the Shopware system, but on your external system, the business logic, the cases you have. And the integration is very just a small thin layer with some app scripts and techie stuff, but the main logic is somewhere else. So the cool thing is you don't need to use PHP. You can go with Go, C#, whatever language you prefer, which just extends the, I would say, numbers of companies that can suddenly do things for Shopware, because PHP is, as you know, always dead. We heard that a couple of times. But that just gives more developers a chance to go the Shopware way. And the other thing is, what is really great is, in theory, we can talk about it later in more details, is if you have a bug, you just roll out an update. Every merchant immediately has that fixed version without having to manually click on update in the administration. But if you introduce a bug, that might be a horrible weekend then.
Works in reverse, right? That's
Yeah.
So help me understand something, you guys. I think as a business user, if you will, right, from my side coming in, you guys have talked about so many really cool things, right? But we've talked about plugins, and I've heard bundles, and we've talked about extensions and apps, and I'm guessing we're going to talk about themes potentially as part of that as well. But help me as kind of a business user understand. I mean, what is the difference? Some of these, are they the same? Is there a difference? And how are you using each of these different pieces? I mean, Christian, you mentioned a starting point, like we're doing this, we're not doing that, but help kind of the business user understand what's what within this ecosystem.
I suppose the difference is based on pros and cons of the approach, So basically, technically, theme, it is a plugin. The only thing which is different, theme has an additional, like, the class which is above, and that's all. The second thing is theme is only point for extending the storefront according to Shopware recommendations. So you should not write PHP code in the theme. So theme is just like view. You are extending kind of view. Yeah. So it's front-end layer. That's all. From business perspective, in the admin of the shop, plugin and theme has totally the same installation cycle, but theme is placed in theme manager and plugin is placed in apps. Yeah, not in apps, but in plugins. And the difference is that theme can be installed sales channel. So in theory, you can have more than one shop. And it means that for the specific sales channel, you can install and activate this theme. Yeah. This theme can be assigned to another sales channel and so on. But in terms of plugin, it can be installed globally for all sales channels. You do not have an option to bind it only for one sales channel. Maybe if you write the special extension and so on, if you write the special logic, then it works. But from the box, theme can be assigned to different sales channels. Plugin is working globally.
Okay. So that's a super robust way to do it, though, right? Because you've got options all along the way based on what you want. Okay. I like that.
Okay, then let me summarize the other things for you. So speaking about business, let me say it in that way. Let's imagine you would be a customer of mine and you want me to do stuff with your shop and help you with the shop. So this decision is now based in that particular case, whether to go with a kind of bundle, a real source code in the Symfony application, or with an app in that case. So the great thing is app, it's always a trade-off, but speaking on the app, there is nothing you really need to consider, because when you go with app or plugin, you go with the way of having the extension from someone else. And it's up to them whether to provide a plugin or just an app or both. But what you can consider with the business decision, if you should go that way, is the Shopware plugin system is now pretty. Is it okay if I say old? I mean, it's been years now with Shopware 6, the initial release, but yeah, it's old and it's major. So it has a lot of stuff inside. So you can expect from real plugins that they offer quite a lot of features if they are done in a good way. With the app system, it's also kind of old, but still new. So it has less features or options for plugin developers or app developers in that case. So Shopware is adding so many webhooks and stuff that you can do, but in fact, it still has less options. So if a plugin or app vendor for you in your business decision has both, you can probably expect that the plugin might have more features and the app not so much features. The other way around, the app gives you, if you see that they are building a lot in the app system, then they are maybe transitioning to that system. And that gives you the control that if a bug happens, they can fix it on their servers and it's immediately working in your case. So that's a thing to, just a small summary to consider whether to go with that third-party vendor. If you are a medium enterprise customer and you go ask me what is the best way to help you, then I would probably maybe prefer, depending on the plugins, to go with the bundle way, the source code way, because it gives me as a developer for you way more freedom to extend whatever I want. In case you are on an on-premise system. If you're a cloud server, then we just have to go with the app system, of course. But that really gives me more options to change the shop in a way that you want it to have. And last but not least, good thing, you can just combine both of them. So if we had payment, I would go with a payment plugin or app in case they're working and not do that on my own. So these are the, I would say, business decisions and potential risks that you just need to consider when deciding that. I hope that helps you.
Yeah, that's perfect, right? Because I mean, there's so many pieces out there, right? And as I'm sure, I mean, you've got a developer audience out there listening to this as well. I'm sure you've got some recommendations for them, but I appreciate you going back to the business side as well, right? And saying, okay, so these are the considerations, because when I'm working with clients, or if I'm the client, right, having been the client in the past, I want to speak the right language. I want to know when you say something, it's helpful to know truly what that means and why that's important. And so that's an incredible thing. So thank you for actually going through the process, both of you, and giving me a little bit of insight as to, what's what within Shopware. So I'd say maybe for the rest of the conversation, tell us about what you guys are doing, right? Whether it's within the app system, whether it's a plugin. I know you're working on lots of incredible things. We talked a little bit briefly at the start about some of them, but what are you working on, and why is that important, right? Just tell us a little bit about how you're engaging within these systems.
Okay. In our case, right now, the main focus is social networks, for example. So we are developing apps which will help a lot for shop owners to be notified with their orders or order status mutations and so on. So for now, I suppose it will change a little bit, maybe, the attitude to the flow builder to specific events, because from time to time it is really for small shops and for medium shops to have notification manager, and to be notified via social networks. So from our side, it is like main direction. Let it be so. All of them are apps.
So I had the implementation in shops, moved on to plugins, and the latest thing is actually an app. So that was the Molly Payments app, and it was just because we were speaking about apps. What I did not tell anyone speaking or targeting the developer audience, even though it's really a lot to do, because you're not building just a plugin that's inside a Shopware instance. You're building a completely new SaaS system. It really depends on what you try to achieve. So it's a lot. It can be complex, but it's just so much fun. It worked so good. So I did do the Molly apps and got back to testing the whole how to use end-to-end testing in pipelines to combine all these different containers that they speak with each other automatically. So it's just a more techie based thing that's just so much fun. Also dev experience and dev setups. So that's what I did, and also moved on to some kind of headless project. So more later on this year, but it just tries to speed up how to use Shopware composables, get data, and make sure that it's in the end super fast, because nowadays one of the important things is that it's not only about having an ERP system, having a shop. It's the whole infrastructure that you're trying to achieve as a manufacturer or online shop. So that's one thing, and the rest I'm just doing a lot of open source stuff. So, and that will probably never end.
I'm glad you are. We need people doing that, so that's amazing.
Maybe one thing to add, like as soon as you are app developer, you should be aware of the responsibility about security.
Yeah.
From this point, you are responsible for the security, and maybe you won't be only an app developer, but also a DevOps.
Oh, that's so good that you mentioned it. This with the creating apps or SaaS system, hey, you really need to dig deeper into things like vulnerability assessments, threat modeling, and that's just as a pure plugin developer, never needed that. But now it's really this is Vlad. So good that you're saying this. Sometimes people just do not expect that situation to occur and happen, that you need to also the one thing that I love to add with the Shopware app system, you have the plugin configuration fetched based on an iframe UGS application from external server, and in an iframe it looks with the Meteor components, it looks as the native ones. But one thing that you just need to ensure is that the whole request response communication is done with handshakes and pretty good speaking of the signature stuff. But if you have your own application being fetched as an iframe and you have Axios JavaScript Ajax calls in there, that's not Shopware anymore. That's your application.
Great advice. It's interesting, right? It's becoming more and more important as we go. I think you guys have given some great advice here for developers as they look to develop their own apps and extend Shopware in so many different ways. From a merchant's perspective, or like a business user, if you will, kind of from the outside looking in, what should a business user be looking at to help determine, whether or not this extension is going to be worth it, or might provide them some vulnerabilities, or what makes a good extension essentially from a business user's perspective? How can we spot the challenges, right? The vulnerabilities that might be out there? And I'm sure we just reach out to guys like you and you can help us figure that out. But are there any other signs that we can look for?
Company name.
Okay.
Reviews on the store. So that helps a lot, because there's just no chance we just saw that kind of huge security problem we had with that open source project. Mm-hmm. There's always, speaking of security, someone out there who's just better than you.
That's right.
So there's just no chance. The only thing that you have is to see, as Vlad mentioned, the company name. Is it well known? Probably. Are the reviews good? But it's also what I like when speaking about testing is one of the main things about testing is that there are always bugs in source code, always, because we are always all human beings. So that means you can use the best app. I'm quite sure there's a security problem in there somehow.
From this point, the problem is not only from maybe business side, but also from developer side. As soon as client asks to install the application for the store, it can be because you are not able to see the source code. What you really see, in fact, it is only, let it be one file. Of course, it can be more with tweak files and so on, but basically it is only one XML file where all webhooks are declared, and that's all. That's all. So even it doesn't matter. You are a business owner, or you are Christian or Vlad or another developer. We cannot guarantee that this app will work properly and it is secure.
Good thing is Shopware is, I mean, they're testing the apps and plugins. But still, I mean, we had that open source project where the bad code was injected in the binary artifact way and not in the source code. So yeah, things happen. But at least Shopware is validating and testing the plugins and apps. So it's not that anyone can just upload anything and then it's published. Just to mention that.
Of course.
Yeah, that's really good, right? I mean, they're trying to keep that app ecosystem, if you will, as healthy as they possibly can. And you're right.
Yeah.
Every day that goes by, vulnerabilities come, and there's different unique ways that people are going about it. And you're never completely secure. You always got to be on that edge, watching and making sure that you take action. Right? I
Always
couldn't
on
agree
the
more.
risky edge of life, right?
Yeah, that's right. Who knew the job could be so risky for you two? See, my approach is easy, and not everybody gets to do this. I just send it to Vlad, and I'm like, Vlad, what's up with this? Tell me, good, bad, ugly. And he, but not everybody has a Vlad. Okay, so that's what I do. Well, let me ask you this then. So, with all the things that we've talked about today, let's put our developer hat on first, and then we're going to put our business user hat on second, our merchant hat, if you will. But from a development perspective, right? If you're a developer kind of looking at Shopware, looking at extending, wondering if Shopware is a platform they ought to spend some time and effort looking into, any advice for that person, diving into it? Any advice or any like excitement about what you're seeing, I guess, if you will, having done this yourself. And the reason I ask this, here in the United States, we've got a lot of people jumping into Shopware right now. A lot of developers and merchants are starting to take notice and look at that too. And I really want them to look at this and say, okay, I now understand how to extend Shopware in a better way. But what are the reasons to, right? Anything come to mind?
Okay, from dev side, if you are like PHP developer and you've got a strong knowledge of Symfony, you can go with bundles. And you can go with apps, of course. Yeah. My recommendation for all developers, of course, is to check all points, because I am a big fan of plugins also. I was a developer for the Shopware 5, and I can't say that plugins is outdated, old-fashioned, and so on and so on. No, I'm not able to say. But if you're a Symfony developer, just take a look at bundles, apps. If you are, I don't know, if you work with C#, Golang, and so on and so on, of course it is apps. If we talk about Shopware developer, you should check plugins, of course.
Fair enough.
And I would love to add the kind of fascination about Shopware from my perspective is that I'm a fan of latest technology, although I'm always a bit waiting, so a couple of weeks to figure out if it's already gone or deprecated by then. But the cool thing with Shopware is you can really see that they are using latest technology, latest approaches. We were just talking about Shopware composing with frontends in the beginning. We have the app system, we have Vue.js, and pure Symfony, just pure Symfony. So if I would compare it with different applications, especially in the PHP is that world, it's really it gives you the feeling of working as a developer in some kind of state-of-the-art technology, even though it's just PHP. Don't judge me for that. But really, it's some kind of latest state of technology, and also the architecture compared to what Vlad just said with Shopware 5. It's just so good. It's really well thought from of the Shopware core developers, and it's just pure fun. And that's, I think, what we as developers aim for when working with a platform. Because sometimes we don't care about the results, we care about the doing, the coding, and that's just brilliant with Shopware.
That's awesome. I had the opportunity to ask Vlad a little bit about that the other day, and that was kind of his approach too, right? He was just like, man, the technology is so great.
Yeah.
It's up to date, and there's just no one else doing that. So anyway, I love it. Vlad, you were going to say?
Yeah. I mean, from this point, you can tell everybody that you are a Shopware developer because you are able to develop under any languages you want. So it doesn't matter which language you select for the development. You can just tell, I'm a Shopware developer. I know Shopware, even if you do not know. It is 10-15 minutes to understand the logic of apps, and that's all.
Mm-hmm.
So Shopware changes rules of the game, I suppose, in the e-commerce industry at all.
Honestly, that's huge, Vlad. I didn't realize that, right? So coming into this podcast today, the ability to use all of those language, focus on what you're good at. In my own store many years ago, I had a developer. We were on Magento, right? So it was all PHP, and we're doing that. And he was building a Python script for something that we needed, and I was like, and it kind of threw me off just a little bit. And but knowing that you can leverage whatever technologies and whatever languages and things that to ultimately achieve your goal is pretty huge, actually. All right, guys, from a merchant perspective, why should a merchant look at Shopware today?
So if you just compare what is happening, what happened to some other platforms, I would say with Shopware, you see a clear aim to go with with latest technology, but also with latest things that happen. I think they were, I don't know, the first ones integrating artificial intelligence options into the core system. So they have a called a innovations lane. So a task force, a couple of people just focusing on what kind of inventions might be the next big thing for e-commerce systems. And just focusing on that task force, that kind of way how to work, just already should give you the feeling that this is a company that is not just building a product, but trying to build the future or improve it. And as Vlad already said, how to decide what plugin to use. Sometimes you just need to focus on how the company works. Besides that, I mean, if you just take a look on at Shopware, it's just, it looks good, it feels good, it's getting better and better. Although, yeah, it has bugs. It's not the same as Shopware 5, still not, but I would also say it shouldn't be. Because the goal with Shopware 6, especially with the headless first approach, stuff like that, is clearly that it gives developers, agencies, the power to build your whole infrastructure, e-commerce infrastructure. And Shopware 5 had all in the box, even though it might not be the best decision to have that. And Shopware 6 really gets rid of that, focuses on having a great core, and gives you the power and flexibility to build whatever you want. So that might be my thing that I would say to a merchant.
Love it.
Yeah. Maybe let's add two more aspects. The first thing is just if you are trying to understand if you want to go with Shopware or not, just check investors of Shopware. That is first
Great point.
And
Great
the
point.
second point is just to think a little bit for shop owners. Shopware 6 was released after Magento 2, Shopify, and so on and so on. So all people who are working in Shopware, they are pretty clever guys and girls. Yeah. They had an ability to gather the information about other e-commerce systems, to combine ideas, to investigate what is wrong in other systems, and only after that, Shopware 6 was released and developed. So that is the plan.
It's a great point. They have the learnings of all those platforms and all those people and all those merchants. And you, to me, I see that. And the easiest example as a non-techie type of a person for me is, we know you guys talked about headless, and you've talked about this. So it's like, I can have headless. I don't have to just choose just headless this or just Shopware that, right? I have the ability to say, they've taken that into account. I may need multiple types of storefronts, front ends, check out in different places, and we can achieve that, right? And I think that's seemingly unique as well from what you can do here. Amazing. I just want to say thanks to both of you. I think, developers listening in have a great opportunity to say, I now see a vision of how I can work and extending the platform. Maybe I should, give it a try. And I think the merchants probably take note and see, okay, these are the really interesting things. I even think there's probably some agencies out there looking at this saying, okay, is now the time to invest. So I appreciate what you guys have done. Any parting words of advice for anyone out there listening before we sign off?
Yeah, just go out there and give it a try. Make your fingers dirty, have fun as a developer or merchant.
Be a part of Shopware team, and that's all.
It's just no other choice. I love it, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you all of those who tuned in and stayed with us through this whole time. Hopefully something here sparks some interest and get you headed in some fun directions, at least get you some understanding of Shopware and honestly how awesome both of these guys are, and leverage their experience for sure, because there's a lot of it. Thanks, gentlemen.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye.